Hey, what's up, y'all, and welcome to another edition of the Countdown. And I know it's been a long gap between the first and second episode, but I wanted to go ahead and start this back up and just get right back on track. And if you haven't listened to the first episode, you'll know what I'm doing right here for this podcast. This podcast is just strictly for like top 10, top 5, or whatever countdowns. And for this series, for this season of the podcast, I am going to be talking about my top 10 best and worst of 2019. First episode I already covered the number 10 spots, and so in this episode, of course, I am going to be covering the number 9 spots, starting off with the number 9 spot for the best list, which is Joker. I already previously reviewed it, and I'm just going to replay it on this podcast, and shortly and right after that, I am going to cover the top 9 spot on the worst list. So without further ado, here you go with Joker. Let's go ahead and jump over to the next review, which is Joker. Now, Joker stars Joaquin Phoenix and Zazie Beetz, and this movie, okay. So, going into this movie, I knew that it would be a character piece. More than just your average comic book movie film people are accustomed to nowadays. So, I conditioned my mind to that. I knew not to expect any big explosions, crazy action, etc. I just took the movie as it was given to me. Now, first off, this movie really is a character piece on the character Art the Fleck and how society and just life transitioned him from being a good-hearted guy into a cold-blooded, insane killer. It's not your average type of like movie where a person who, despite their upbringing, can become something greater. This is a guy who is molded by his environment and becomes a product of said environment. And I love how the backstory of the Joker parallels to Bruce Wayne, but with a different result, basically. Bruce Wayne, who grew up rich and was affected by his parents' death due to the chaos in Gotham City and became Batman. But you have Art the Fleck, who was really just a kind of like middle class, or actually I guess you could say lower class citizen, and became a victim of society and became the Joker. I kind of like, I liked how that just kind of paralleled or whatever. I mean, you really couldn't pull it out of anything else because we really don't get a steady like backstory to Joker or whatever in the comic books. You have a lot of them to choose from, but you don't really have a definitive origins of the Joker. So that's where I could pick from this movie. And speaking of the character Arthur, Joaquin Phoenix does an amazing job portraying the character and does make him sympathetic, but not without its negatives. And I know that was just a big thing or whatever with people trying to be like, oh, you're making him sympathetic and all this stuff. But at the same time, it's putting it in a way to where it's like, even though you can sympathize with this character, you don't condone his actions. And that's really just putting it out. And I thought the humor was done extremely well, as I found myself laughing throughout the whole film. Which is crazy because I never thought that I would find this movie as humorous as I did, but I did. And this movie was a great standalone film, and it really don't need a sequel or a connection to a Batman film or any other film at that. This is like one of those films where, you know, you need it like this, bam, and just, you don't need to go anywhere else with it. Even though they're talking about possibly doing a sequel, which I don't think that they need to. It's just leave it alone. Let it be the way it is. But in conclusion, this was really an awesome film with a great cast, great acting, really great writing. The movie was well directed, very humorous and deep, with a whole lot to say in its society and its social commentary. The feel of the movie was done really good, and it's not your average comic book movie, and it is a bit artsy, but at the same time, it is well constructed. I was highly satisfied after seeing this movie. And I feel like if you like the Joker and you want to see a movie with a different take on the comic book character that's not all explosions and crazy CGI, and but focuses on the character or characters at hand and relies more on the story concerning the characters, then I really think that you should go ahead and give this movie a try. I believe that you can still catch it in theaters or whatever. If you can, go ahead do it. If you can't, then you probably might have to just go ahead and catch it on DVD or, streaming. But I really do recommend it. And I'm not saying that it is a masterpiece like a lot of critics say it is, but I really do think that it is a great film, and it surprised the hell out of me, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a 7. So yeah, that was my review of Joker. So now let me jump right into Playing with Fire. So Playing with Fire was one of those movies that it stars John Cena, and it's about him. He's like a captain of this fire squad where they're not just ordinary firemen. They jump into like them wildfires and stuff like that. And he is straight by the books. He's all about business, all about his job. And upon one of the rescues that he goes into, he finds these kids that's inside of this building, and he takes them back to his headquarters, and he keeps them there until their parents come and get them. All the while, the whole time, it's all the shenanigans, pranks, and stuff just going on with the kids, and he has to try to handle it in the best way that he can. And so, this movie, I honestly could say, I don't think this review is going to be long, but overall, this movie was kind of boring. This was a movie that was just strictly for kids. I don't see if any adults can find any humor out of this. More than likely, you might be able to. It's all in what your flavor is. But the comedy was hit or miss. But I ain't even gonna lie. I had some moments where I did have some laugh out loud type moments in it, but overall, the comedy really just didn't work. It was one of those things where if you're watching it, you're more than likely to fall asleep and won't miss a damn thing when it comes to this movie. Like I said, this is literally humor for kids. It has some decent slapstick, but overall, it didn't work all the time. And it's just mainly basically for kids or whatnot. And the acting was decent. And with some of the characters, you have some overacting. But when it comes down to it, it just, nah. But this is one of those movies that, it's like, I don't even know. It's one of those movies. The best way I could put it is that if you've seen like the old live action Disney movies, or not Disney, but Nickelodeon movies like Big Fat Liar and stuff like that, it's kind of like in the realm of those, like Max Keeble's Big Move. It's kind of like in the realm of those movies. It's just, you already know this is for kids. Adults could find some humor in it that might be like little stupid humor, and they just kind of laugh at it just in the way that like certain things are put. But as a legitimate laughter, there is really none to be had too much from this movie. John Cena, he is kind of like 50-50. Sometimes he does a really good job, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he does a decent job, sometimes he just doesn't bring it, So it's all like, when you're watching a movie with him, it's like, what am I going to get? Am I going to get a good performance from John Cena, or am I just going to get a bad? So until he breaks that mold to where he consistently puts out good performances, whether the movie is bad or good, he's going to be in this type of limbo where you don't know what you're going to get. But, it's a good kids movie. So, with things are how they are right now, you probably might be able to find it and put it on for the kids. But other than that, this isn't a movie that you'll be able to watch just regularly. It is a miss. You can completely skip it. It's not one of the better kid films. It's really nothing, but hey, that's just my opinion. Just my opinion. Now with the number 9 spots out the way, I'm going to jump into some honorable mentions. One being Jumanji, The Next Level, and the other one being Richard Jewell. And then after that, I'm going to talk about my top 5 best films of February 2020. And then we're going to end off the podcast. So without further ado, let's go ahead and continue. So Jumanji The Next Level is the sequel to Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, and it stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Karen Gillan, Jack Black, Awkwafina, Kevin Hart, Danny DeVito, and Danny Glover. And the synopsis goes as follows. Feeling useless and empty, Spencer re-enters the game alone. His friends checking up on him realizes what happened and goes back into the game to get him out. Only to realize that Spencer's grandfather and his grandfather's best friend have entered the game as well. Now all together they must find Spencer and get out the game, while at the same time being tasked to complete a new mission in Jumanji. And so going into this movie, I was really excited. I've said it before. I was a big fan of the first Jumanji with Robin Williams up in there, and I really loved it. Didn't even think that they would make a second one. They made a second one. Really wasn't optimistic about it. I poo-pooed on it. I'm like, this looks stupid, and I ended up really enjoying the movie. Really enjoying the movie. It really surprised me. It was a pleasant surprise. And seeing this movie, I was really excited going into it, and I really wasn't let down. And one thing that you would notice is that the scale is upped. Like, they made it more expansive, they made it more broader and bigger. And I did like that about it, is that they didn't go crazy overboard, but it is bigger than what the Welcome to the Jungle gave us. The movie is funny as hell. It's funny as hell, just like the other one, just like the movie prior to this one. You have some great acting up in there from everybody, and I really did like it. And it's a great adventure movie. It really is. It's a really good adventure movie. The action scenes were really good. Like the baboon scene on the bridges, as well as the ostrich chasing the desert. And I love the concept of the characters being in different avatars in this one. The character change worked for this so as to not retread what the previous film did, and the actors like Jack Black and Kevin Hart really took advantage of that. Now, like I said before, I wasn't a huge fan of Jack Black, but these movies, as well as the Goosebumps movies and the House with the Clock in its Walls in it, really did change my mind about his comedic timing and just him as a comedic actor. And just how he portrays the character, the avatar that he is, from being Bethany to being the fridge. How he handled the characters, I really did like it, and it was just comedy gold. And Kevin Hart really is hit or miss with me, but with the character change in this movie, it really did work, especially when he's playing Spencer's grandfather's best friend. Just that role and how he portrayed it, I really did love it. I really did. It was funny as hell. And I did like The Rock and Karen Gillan up in this movie, but to me, Kevin Hart and Jack Black were the complete standouts. And Awkwafina was a good addition to the film as well. She didn't really add too much to the film, but I did like her in this movie, even though she didn't have too much to work with. But one of the negatives I can say about this movie is that there is something that is introduced in the film which seems like a super big convenience, and that it influences the plot, but it felt like kind of like an easy get out of jail card. Like it was just introduced just so that something else can happen to kind of help the heroes along. And even though they do have a good comedic scene with this spoilerish thing, it just really seemed out of place. Like they kind of like the writers wrote themselves into like a corner, and so they needed a way to get out. And like, okay, let's just introduce this. Kind of like how Kryptonite was introduced to Superman back in the day, and that's why Kryptonite is the way it is. Like, just go look it up, why Kryptonite was made. But that's just seemed like why this certain thing was put back into the movie, just to get everything back on track. And I don't know, it just really stood out to me. It's not a major negative, but it just really did stand out to me. But this movie is just fun as hell, and it has a big, satisfying, climactic ending that I really did love, and I really did like the way it ended. And it does have a post-credit scene in the movie that, you know, kind of sets up for maybe there could be a third movie, and I'm kind of interested, or a fourth movie. I'm kind of interested to see where they're going to go with this, even though I can't really say too much to it because it's kind of spoilerish, but when you see it, you'll see it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But overall, it was a hit for me. I really did enjoy it more than what I actually thought that I was going to enjoy it. And yeah, that's my review. So now we're going to talk about Richard Jewell. So Richard Jewell stars Paul Walter Hauser, Sam Rockwell, and Kathy Bates. And it is about a security guard who reports a bomb and saves a lot of lives. But when the info is leaked that he may be directly responsible, there's a meteor hailstorm where he is the prime suspect, and he tries to prove himself innocent when everyone else is painting him guilty. So going in, I really didn't know anything about this whole situation. So this is kind of like me getting my first kind of information from this whole story. But as a movie, I really did like it. It was really, really good. I didn't expect great things from it. I just wanted to go in and see how it felt, and I really ended up liking this. It's well acted. Paul Walter Hauser did an awesome job, and he takes it, like, his character takes his job way too seriously and can get over the top sometimes, and just he can get, and he's just a tad bit naive, just to put it lightly. Like, he wants to be the best person that he wants to be, and he takes it overboard, you know. And it's just, I don't know, like, he plays it well. Like, I don't know if that's just how he is as a person, and then it just translated onto the screen. But if that's the total opposite of how he is, not in a bad way, but he just really performed his ass off with this character. And Sam Rockwell does a great job, as well as Kathy Bates, who kills it as well. I really enjoyed all three of their performances. They did really well, but of course, really the standout was Paul Walter Hauser, who played Richard Jewell, and he just really nailed it. And I love the way that the film is constructed. It's like you root for Richard but at the same time you get upset when he does stupid stuff, because, like I said, he's super naive about just what everything is doing. He tries to, like, the police and the FBI try to lead him into basically incriminating himself, and the lawyer just telling him, like, don't say nothing, and he just says stuff, and it's like, shut up. And he plays it really well. The film itself shows off the ugly side of the media, which you don't have to watch a movie in order to see that, but it really shows what the media would do to a person just to get a good story, and what law enforcement will do just to close the case quickly so that they can have their man and just basically look like the good guys. And rather than just trying to find the legit guilty party for what all went down. And it does a good job with, like, just showing that. And it's real crazy. And I found myself enjoying this film a whole lot more than what I originally thought I would, like I said. And it was just because of those aspects that just, it shows the kind of like a bad look on the media, bad look on just law enforcement. Because not everything is all good. You're going to have a lot of negatives through whatever. Like, certain things are black and white. There's no gray area in between. And it paints a picture of what they would do to a person just to make themselves look great. And I just love how it was done. And you're just really rooting for the truth to come out and for it to be in the favor of Richard Jewell, but at the same time smacking yourself in the face due to all the dumb stuff he is doing to possibly not intentionally screw himself over and just being very naive about it. And I just really, like, it was a lot of aspects that worked for this movie. The acting, just the overall look, the tone, and what they were going for, and how it was constructed, and everything else. And I really did enjoy it. And if you find yourself coming across this movie and you want to watch it, you know, check it out. Just really check it out, especially if you heard about it or you didn't hear about it and you want to know more about it. I mean, of course, read up on it, but check this movie out because it is worth checking out. It's worth your time and your money if you're going to rent it or buy it or whatever. It is worth all of that. And it definitely is a hit. Of course, it's an honorable mention. So definitely check it out. So let's go ahead and finish off this podcast with my top 5 best of February 2020. And it's not really that many films, but majority of the films that came out in February really take up majority of the top 5. So starting off the top 5, at number 5 is The Call of the Wild. I really did enjoy the film. It was a movie that I really didn't think I was going to enjoy, but I really did enjoy it. The CG does stand out because all the characters are CG, the animals are CG, but at the same time, after a while, it doesn't bother you after a while, but it is kind of like, it has a entertainment value to it. It is heartfelt and heartwarming and all that stuff, and it is a pretty decent film, better than what I expected, and I was really pleasantly surprised. Number 4 is Birds of Prey, a movie where I had a lot to like about it, and there is a lot to not like about it. As far as the BVS universe, it isn't one of the best films in there, but at the same time, it was a good effort. And it was something, like I said in my review, that Suicide Squad should have been. I did love the action, the acting, especially from Margot Robbie, and just how it was constructed. It was a decent effort, but it was kind of like a mixed bag for me. But overall, just how it was, not compared to the others, I did have a lot of enjoyment than it was not to enjoy it from it. Number 3 is Fantasy Island, a movie that I'm not too familiar with the source material, with the show, but I really did like the different take on it, with it not being a kind of like a good feeling. It's kind of like more of a horror aspect, and just driven in that way, and just all the performances I did like, especially Michael Pena, like I said in my review, and just kind of like the bold, type of like feel that they went for it. I really did enjoy it, and I wasn't feeling disappointed after I left the theater. And yeah, so number 2 is Sonic the Hedgehog. After all the controversy with the changing of Sonic and all that stuff, and just with my kind of like feelings on live action mixed with animation, especially with the Sonic character, thinking that it should have been all animation, I came out of this movie really, really, really loving it. I thought it was really good and how it was done, and it isn't the best film this year, but it is one of the best. It's really good. I mean, it has good interactions, great, pretty decent performances or whatever. Really good humor. The CG on and off, but at the same time, it was pretty decent for what they were doing. And I really did like how they handled the Sonic character. I really did think that they did a good job with what they were given. It is one of the better video game movies that is out there. So yeah. And at number 1, you probably did guess it. It is The Invisible Man, a movie, man. Honestly, from the trailer, and you're gonna get that a lot from me. From the trailer, I didn't think it was gonna be that great, but it was one of the best horror films within the past, I say, years. This is a movie, like I said in my review, that I think a lot of horror writers or, filmmakers should take notes on how to do horror, because this was horror done right. Psychological horror done right, and I really did like it. The performances, how like certain scenes were shot with like, just focusing on one spot to where it's like, is he there? Is he not? And just kind of like it manipulate the emotions of not only the characters on screen, but us as an audience member. And it was really done well. And I really did enjoy it way more than what I thought I would. Like, I haven't said that enough, but that is my top 5 list of the best films of February 2020. And that wraps up this podcast. Like, thank you guys for joining me. And, if you haven't checked out episode 1, go ahead and check that out. Check out everything else on my channel. And I will catch you guys next week. Peace out. Hey, before you guys leave, make sure you hit that like button as well as that subscribe button. And you see that little bell? Make sure you hit that to turn on your notifications. That way you'll be notified for anything that appears on my channel. Hope to see you guys next time. Peace out.